Hello and welcome back. As you can see behind me here, we're not in our normal location anymore. This is a Scottish heath. We're here because the play opens in such a setting. The three witches, again the triune imagery that I mentioned before, open the play. And that's significant because it shows us that the whole play begins in this dark, rather magical, almost satanic world of barrenness. The witches say to each other, "When shall we three meet again, in thunder, lightning, or in rain? When the hurly-burly is done, and when the battle's lost and won, that will be ere the set of sun. Where the place? Upon the heath, there to meet with Macbeth." The character of Macbeth at the beginning, though, is not evil. If we're thinking of this as a tragedy, the tragedy has a man of greatness and nobility plummeting into ruin. If he's not a man of greatness at the beginning, he's just sort of an awful, evil man, he doesn't get ruined. It doesn't go anywhere. So we begin with a man who's actually rather noble. We have various characters who say he's noble, he's powerful, he's strong. For instance, this part of the text here. Act 1, Scene 2. The captain, doubtful it stood, as two spent swimmers that do cling together and choke their art. Brave Macbeth, and well he deserves that name, disdaining fortune with his brandished steel, which smoked with bloody execution, like valor's minion carved out his passage till he faced the slave, which ne'er shook hands nor bade farewell to him, till he unseamed him from the nave to the chaps, and fixed his head upon our battlements. What the captain is pointing out at the beginning is that Macbeth, who is a duke in the army of the King of Scotland, Duncan, is fighting against the rebels, the rebel Scottish lords, with bravery and courage and strength. He's a martial character, a very powerful character. And all the rest of the thanes praise him. Duncan himself later on praises him and gives him the ownership of the land of Cawdor. And even his own wife says, "You are noble, but you have a flaw." And here's the text. Act 1, Scene 5. "Glamis thou art, and Cawdor, and shalt be what thou art promised. Yet do I fear thy nature. It is too full the milk of human kindness to catch the nearest way. Thou wouldst be great, art not without ambition, but without the illness that should attend it." What Lady Macbeth herself recognizes is that Macbeth is kind. He's gentle. He is somebody who has ambition, it's true, but doesn't want to do evil. He doesn't want to do things that are bad. He doesn't want to do things that are horrible. So here's a man who is martial, he is strong, he is powerful, he's beloved by the king, Duncan, and by the various dukes. He has his own wife's praise, and yet he's a man who has ambition too. And it's ambition that begins to work on Macbeth. He meets the three witches at the beginning of the play, and they hail him as the Duke of Cawdor, the Thane of Cawdor. And then they hail him as the King of Scotland. And when Macbeth receives the dukedom of Cawdor, that is, he's appointed to be Thane of Cawdor, he thinks to himself, if that's possible, then I can be king too. What we see in the character of Macbeth from the very beginning is that he is a noble man. Everybody praises him for his martial power and his strength, and even for his kindness, Lady Macbeth says. He is a man who has ambition, though, and that ends up being his flaw, the flaw that brings him to ruin. Therefore, he becomes the tragic hero in the Aristotelian sense. From the very start of the play, we have these three witches that begin the play. And triune imagery, first off, take note. But these three witches end up being something like the forces of the subconscious, or the forces of darkness, or the forces of the demonic, if we want to call it that influences Macbeth in the direction that he otherwise might not go. They hail him as the Thane of Cawdor, and they hail him as the King of Scotland. But there's one problem. There's already a king. Not only that, but the King of Scotland says, "I'm going to make my son the next king." And as Macbeth says, that is an impediment that I must fall down upon or overleap. He knows that he's never going to be king if this young man is now appointed to be the prince to inherit the throne. And that's where he begins to get this idea. maybe I could get the throne by seizing it. And Lady Macbeth, his partner in greatness, receives the news from him in a letter. If you notice in the text, that letter is a form of prose. It's not poetry, it's prose. And after she's finished the letter, she moves into poetry, Iambic Pentameter again. And in the Iambic Pentameter movement, from prose to poetry, we notice something of the character of Lady Macbeth. Lady Macbeth has no Christian name. She is just the opposite of Macbeth, almost like the feminine side of Macbeth. And at the beginning of the play, she and Macbeth are of one mind, to a certain degree. She says, come here to our castle so that I can give you the power to do what you must do. Because she's the one that conceives that they're going to kill the king. In the same way that Eve conceives to Adam, we can eat this tree of knowledge, and then they get kicked out of the Garden of Eden. Lady Macbeth is a little bit more vicious than Macbeth, and she makes here in Act 1, Scene 5, an invocation of these spirits to change her and make her less than a woman. The text reads this way. Act 1, Scene 5, Lady Macbeth. The raven himself is hoarse that croaks the fatal entrance of Duncan under my battlements. Come, you spirits that tend on mortal thoughts, unsex me here, and fill me from the crown to the toe top full of direst cruelty. Make thick my blood, stop up the access and passage to remorse, that no compunctious visitings of nature shake my fell purpose, nor keep peace between the effect and it. Come to my woman's breasts, and take my milk for gall, you murdering ministers, wherever in your sightless substances you wait on nature's mischief. Come, thick night, and pall thee in the dunnest smoke of hell, that my keen knife see not the wound it makes, nor heaven peep through the blanket of the dark to cry, hold, hold. In this invocation that Lady Macbeth makes, she's making it so that she can make Macbeth strong enough to kill Duncan, because as she says, he's too full of the milk of human kindness. Notice in the text, though, that there are 3 sections. Come, you spirits. Come, you murdering ministers. Come, thick night. And notice also that there is a child image, that she doesn't want even her own conscience to notice the wound she's going to make, and doesn't want heaven to peep through the blanket like a baby. Lady Macbeth is always going on about baby imagery, and one could speculate even that maybe she had a child at one point. Later on, she says to Macbeth, I have had a child. I have given suck. I know how tender a child is. And yet I would take that baby and I would smash its brains out if I did the things that you did and swore the way you swore. So she's quite tough. She's quite tough as nails. And she says to Macbeth, you have to be tough as nails if you're going to do this task. And consequently, she makes him less than human. So in her speech, Lady Macbeth has conjured spirits in order to make Macbeth strong enough to do the deed of killing Duncan. And she says in her speech, unsex me here, a famous and rather controversial line. What that means has nothing to do with that other thing. It has everything to do with the fact that she wants to strip herself of her femininity, take away everything that makes me a woman, everything that makes me soft and capable of mercy. In a similar way, Macbeth has to strip himself of everything that makes him a man, everything that makes him capable of feeling mercy, love, affection for anybody else. And in so doing, both characters make themselves into unmen, dead men, Grendels, if you will, or golems, as we saw in the section on Bilbo. Both Lady Macbeth and Macbeth, by the choice of killing Duncan, make themselves into something that's much less than human. And Macbeth himself vacillates. Do I do this deed? Do I not do this deed? Do I have the power to do this deed? Do I not have the power to do this deed? And in his inability to decide, he, in a way, begins to expose a certain femininity or effeminateness, I should say. That is what Shakespeare called a womanliness, womanishness. This speech particularly shows this inability to decide and therefore a lack of decision on his part. This is in Act 1, Scene 7, and the text looks like this. If it were done when 'tis done, then 'twere well it were done quickly. if the assassination could trammel up the consequence and catch with his surcease success, but that this blow might be the be-all and the end-all, then here, but here upon this bank and shoal of time we jump the life to come. But in these cases we still have judgment here, that we but teach bloody instructions, which being taught return to plague the inventor. I have no spur to prick the sides of my intent, but only vaulting ambition which o'erleaps itself and falls on the other. You notice in this text, first off, that it gets cut off. It doesn't finish the idea. Macbeth is a man who has chosen to do a deed that's going to take away his human side. He's going to do something that damns him. And consequently, he's an unfinished man in a way. It's a truncated man. But this speech particularly is important because it is him deciding whether or not he should kill Duncan. He doesn't have the conviction on the one hand to say this is the wrong course of action. But on the other hand, he doesn't have the conviction to jump in and say, I'm going to do it. And therefore, he says, the king's here as my friend and as my countryman. I shouldn't do this. And if I do it, everybody will think badly of me. It will blow the horrid deed in every eye. In this case, Macbeth therefore loses his humanity, and he becomes like a dragon even further. That's all the time we have for this section.